Hey everybody, Kenny here. Before we get started, I'm just including this little disclaimer that I will be using at the start of each of my Diablo 4 planning videos. Initially, I was going to create one long video that I was just going to add timestamps for, but when I did that with my Octopath Traveler 2 video, despite the fact that it is one of my more successful videos on my channel, I think from the analytics that I saw in that video that the length may have been a little intimidating, which caused it to not get as much traction as it probably would have if I had just released a bunch of shorter videos that each showcased a different character. So instead of doing one long video, I'm doing a bunch of shorter videos on all of my tips and my build planning that I will be putting into a playlist, and then each of these videos will just kind of refer back using this disclaimer here, just to set expectations of what's going to be coming here. These are all going to be essentially theory videos, while most of this has practical application already known due to all of the data mining on the available build calculators and practical experience from playing through the various beta events, as well as what we know from other YouTube groups. Everything here is still potentially going to change once the game actually comes out. We don't know for certain what's going to be what. We just know what we've seen and what's available to us to see. So take everything that you see in any of these videos with a grain of salt. So with that out of the way, let's get going. So in today's video, we're going to be starting out with the basics of build crafting in Diablo 4. So we're going from the most basic stuff to the far more advanced stuff. But primarily the reason why I'm going to be going over this is because of a video that most likely is going to be the most viewed video on this topic by the time this goes live. So I just want to make sure that I get this video out there just to kind of correct some misinformation that was unfortunately released that most likely will not be corrected by the time the game is actually available. But before we get there, I just want to go over some real basic stuff. In Diablo 4, there are going to be 5 classes to start with. Each of the 5 classes are going to represent a different aesthetic as far as character models go. So barbarians are going to be your big beefy bodybuilder type characters. The druids are going to be more stocky woodland type characters. Necromancers are incredibly gaunt and sickly looking. Rogues are very svelte and athletic looking, and sorcerers are like more of a generally attractive character, I suppose. So those are kind of the looks they went for each of these. I am not showing the actual character creator because I made the mistake of deleting all of my beta footage when I ran out of hard drive space a few days ago. So is what it is. I don't want to go and steal someone else's footage just to show that. So I'm just using the build calculator here. I will be including the build calculator in all of my video descriptions, so if you're curious about checking out either of the options that I'm showing here, they will be available in the description of the video. So whether you've decided that you want to go with a class because of the way they look, or because they have a class fantasy that appeals to you more based on your preferences, Then first thing is obviously just to pick what you actually want. So let's say you decided you wanted to be a barbarian. The first thing to do, once you have made some inroads in gaining some skill points, is to decide what's going to be your basic attack. And choosing your basic does a few things. The first is that for every class, no matter what you chose, it will determine how you gain your class resource that is used by your core skills to be able to perform far more powerful attacks. Now, in the case of a barbarian, they actually are the only one of the classes that does not start with any of their resource. As a druid, you will start with your spirit. As a necromancer, you will start with your essence. As a rogue, you'll start with your energy. As a sorcerer, you start with your mana. But as a barbarian, you will not start with any of your fury. Your fury will start at 0, and then you'll have to build it in order to use your skills. Now, druids do work similarly, where once you have spent your spirit, it will not regenerate naturally. But as I mentioned, they do still get to start with their spirit already capped out, and then spend and build as they go. So if you decided to go with barbarian, it's very important to note that unlike the other classes, you will be using your basic skills with a lot more frequency. Kind of like the spectrum on resource management in this game is barbarians are like the very bottom, sorcerers are the very top, then right above barbarian is druid, right below sorcerer would be, I guess rogue and necromancer would kind of be tied. Like the way that their resource works is kind of like on par, but sorcerer mana definitely accrues quicker than the other resource types. So with that in mind, you have to think, okay, so if I decided I wanted to be a big burly basher type, then am I a big burly basher type that makes things bleed? Am I a big burly basher type that attacks things really fast? Am I a big burly basher type that actually does bash in general and causes enemies to get stunned by the forces of my blows? Am I a big burly basher type that likes to initiate a combat as quickly as possible, and so you want to close the gap? There are things to consider, and each has minor upgrades that alter the way the skills work in meaningful ways and some not so meaningful ways. So lunging strike, if you get the enhanced lunging, then you'll actually heal when you hit a healthy enemy. So basically you want to use this as an opener in order to keep yourself topped off. And then you'll have the option to upgrade that to either cause some bleeding or to make it that you'll start berserking. Berserking is a mechanic unique to the barbarian, which makes it that while they are in that state, they will attack faster, and there are many passive skills spread out along their tree that allow you to kind of build into the whole berserking thing. So, if you just go into the search, berserk, and you can do this in the game as well, even though this is a website that is set up just for, helping you create a build. Like this exact system of being able to find a particular mechanic in your tree is something that is actually built into the game for you to do. We can see that from our basic skills, there are 2 that work with that: Lunging Strike and Frenzy. As we noted, the way that berserking works with Lunging Strike is that you have to perform a critical hit during the Lunging Strike in order to start berserking. But with Frenzy, if you were to gain that, then if berserking was initiated, you would gain additional attack speed for each stack of frenzy you have. And then looking at upheaval, if upheaval was to deal damage to at least 2 enemies, you would initiate berserking immediately. So this is a way to, if you want to just start berserking without one of the options later on, then that is a way to do it. You know that you just need to use upheaval to hit 2 enemies. Obviously against a boss, isn't going to do you any good. So our next option is double swing, which is the kind of, I guess, canonical option if you had gone for frenzy, because it just like frenzy, this is a skill that requires you to be dual wielding. And the option here is that if you are berserking while you perform your double swing, then it will add time to the duration of your berserking. You can berserk for longer as long as you have the fury cost to be able to continue double swinging while you're berserking. Then with the brawling skill Warcry, which is a shout ability that increases your damage dealt for 6 seconds, you can enhance it to make it that you gain berserking. So this is an obvious upgrade that you'd want to go for if your goal was to make a berserking build. So you take frenzy to get you the attack speed bonus based on how many stacks of frenzy you have. You'd get double swing with the furious double swing upgrade, make it that double swinging extends the duration of your berserking, and then you use Warcry to kick things off. So you'd run into a group of enemies, Warcry, throw out a couple of frenzies to get the attack speed going, and then just start double swinging. Obviously, if you are out of your resource at this point, then you would need to frenzy for a bit more to get your fury high enough to be able to continuously double swing. But you get the idea. You'd want to either build up, pop off and go, or you'd want to pop off, start building, and then just start laying into them with your double swings. Then we have some passive upgrades here. You could gain some damage reduction while you're berserking, gain another way to gain berserking, which this one is based on your brawling skills, which is anything from this category here. So kick, Warcry, charge, or leap. So essentially what this does is if you choose to go into this, and I'll go and we'll build out this character really quick. Let's grab all of our necessary upgrades to get down this way. There isn't anything berserking related here, so we're just going to ignore that and just build straight into double swing and frenzy. Now that we're down here, you can see that by investing in this, we make it that we can gain berserking by having our brawling skills deal damage, specifically when it deals damage. So leap is a travel skill that will cause you to move through the environment, and wherever you land, you will deal damage to enemies in a radius around your character. However, it has a 17-second cooldown. But obviously you could use this as your berserking initiator. Same way that we were talking about using Warcry with enhanced Warcry to get our berserking starting before. This is also a way to do that. But you could do both. You could have this combo set up so that if Warcry is on cooldown and you weren't able to get your fury up high enough to be able to start using your double swings before your berserk went away, then once you're at max fury, you could just use leap to initiate instead while your Warcry is on cooldown, and then start double swinging after your leap. Or charge, same idea. Also a travel skill. Also has a 17-second cooldown. If you use it to slam into a group of enemies, then it will push back some enemies and cause damage. And same idea applies. If this skill does damage, you will start berserking for 3 seconds and can start getting your double swing berserking going. All of the so it's a whole synergy of getting a specific idea going for your character. And this is what it's kind of like the basics of getting a build going. So this is a berserking build and a very simple one to get going with any barbarian character. There's also another passive here that makes it that while you're berserking, your fury generation is increased, which means that if you were to invest in that, you get that 18% bonus. And you were to also, well, actually no, this wouldn't work for you because endless fury only increases the amount of fury that your basic skills generate if you're using a two-handed weapon, and you cannot use frenzy with a two-handed weapon. This will only work with your dual-wielding weapons. So unfortunately, you can't up your fury generation, but you'll have an 18% bonus while you're berserking, which will make it that the 4 fury that you're generating per hit, which you will be attacking much faster than you would be with any of the other skills, because that's the whole point of frenzy and its 1.25 attack speed multiplier. But that would get you your fury back faster so that you can go back into your double swing berserk building. Then down in the weapon mastery area, there is an upgrade to Steel Grasp, which is if you've ever played a game where you kind of had a hook that you threw out to an enemy that either drug them to you or drug you to them. That same idea. But there is an upgrade to this that makes it that if the Steel Grasp damages an enemy, then just like these, you would gain berserking for 2 seconds. And then Death Blow, which is a very high damage skill, has an option where if it once again damages an enemy, you will gain berserking for 3 seconds. So lots of options for being able to keep your berserking going or to get it going again. However, something to consider though, of everything that I've said so far, frenzy and double swing each would be occupying 2 of your 6 skill slots. Then if you were to take Warcry and one of these, those would be occupying 2 more. And if you were to grab Steel Grasp or Death Blow, they'd be occupying another one. And as I mentioned, you only have 6 slots. So if you want to make sure that you're getting Wrath of the Berserker, which is the ultimate skill involved with the berserking skill mechanic, then you definitely want to make sure that you're leaving 1 spot open for your ultimate. And also, if you want to have any defensive options, then you may want to forego taking Steel Grasp or Death Blow, or perhaps not taking this skill and one of, to kick, charge, or leap. Avoid taking one of those, and so that way you can get a defensive skill. Iron skill is actually a great skill. I used it during the beta with the character that I got to level 25, and this was this was an indispensable skill for all of the builds that I tried out, because it gives you a barrier that absorbs 50% of your missing life. So the lower your health is when you use this, the more beneficial it is. And also there is an upgrade to it that makes it that you heal for 10% of the barrier's original amount, which once again, the lower life you are when you start this, if you choose to get that upgrade, then you're healing for even more. So I would use this just to heal up between encounters. It was a great tactical option. But if you were to take that, then obviously, there's less options for you to be able to keep your fury going. but it's something to consider. As I mentioned, the ultimate related to the whole berserking thing is Wrath of the Berserker, which makes it that if you've played the God of War games, it's that. Like when Kratos does his whole like Fury of the Gods thing, it's that whole thing. And then like you have upgrades to make it that you have more movement speed and fury generation, and increase your damage based on the amount of fury you spend. And the key passive for berserking is unconstrained, which makes it that you increase your maximum damage by 5 seconds, your maximum duration for berserk by 5 seconds, and its damage bonus by 25%, which means that if you were using combat lunge to initiate berserking on a crit, it would go from 1.5 seconds to whatever your new maximum is, which actually that might not be how it works, because it is the maximum. It did say the maximum. Yeah, maximum duration by 5 seconds. So the 1.5, it may not alter anything with these, actually, really. Now that I'm thinking about it. Because this actually says that it's for 1.5 seconds. And this actually says that you gain berserking for 2 to 3 seconds. So it may be that like only something like... I mean, so it seems that like all of the berserking options say how long they you berserk for. So I think it may still work the way that I'm saying. It might be that you do increase these by 5 seconds, because there actually aren't any. There isn't anything that actually says that this is your base berserking time, and each of these berserking skills does increase. Does state a flat berserking duration. And the Furious Double Swing doesn't say grants 2 additional seconds of berserking up to a maximum of this. So either this is a typo because it's missing information, or it works the way that it seems. Because once again, like this wasn't available during beta. We were only able to get up the first 2 beta weekends. We were only able to get up to this section here where the ultimates were. So I know how these work, but I don't know how any of the key passives work, since those were not available during the beta. So I think that this would work the way that I think it does, where you would increase the duration of berserk no matter what, but we will see. But anyway, that's a basic breakdown of how you would create a build in this game. Like a basic build that you would level up with. Like you pick an idea and you go with it. Whether that's berserking, whether that is going for additional fury generation to have like an endless whirlwind type build, whether that's trying to go for an overpower build with Hammer of the Ancients, or a stun build with Upheaval, or you wanted to go Lay and Ren to just start building up bleed stacks and build up a ton of thorns, so that way you're doing bleed and thorn damage to all the enemies you're fighting. There's lots of ways to build your barbarian, but eventually you will reach a point where you have spent all the points you can in your tree, which that is a total of 59 points. 49 of which you get from leveling up, and 10 of which you get from, I guess, increasing your adventure rank kind of thing. I forget what they called it in the game, but as you kind of gain renown, actually, yeah, it's called renown. I remember now. Just go and fully invest in this. You can just get our level up all the way. As you can see that now that we've already invested 50 points, we're now building renown. Well, we're not building renown, we're adding points based on renown. So we've added 2 points from renown. Now just grab some movement speed and the max life there. We still got 2 points left over. and we'll just put them there. So we've invested all of our points here, and now we're level 50 character with our 10 points of renown. We have our full skill build, but now is when the advanced part comes in. This is the Paragon board. Now there are two different calculators that you can use for this. I will include both in the description. This is the one I prefer, and the reason for that is that you can see all of the available boards for your class, whichever class you're building for. You can see them all right there, and you can kind of make choices easier just by looking at what's available. So we can see, and just because of I have Berserk set here, that the Carnage and Blood Rage boards are probably the boards we want to go with as a character who is focusing on berserking. Now obviously berserking is entirely just something I was using as an example. This isn't a build that I plan on doing. This is entirely for the point of showing, how you would want to build a character in Diablo 4. So, you don't have to do what I'm saying. I'm just showing this is something that if your goal was to make a character that was as invested in berserking as possible, then these would be the boards you'd want to go into because you get extra berserk damage. And if you have watched any of the videos on the damage buckets, or if you aren't aware of what damage buckets are, I recommend checking out that video. You just look up Diablo 4 damage buckets, and I'm sure you'll see what I'm talking about. So this right here is giving you the while bucket, so damage while berserking. The Carnage legendary here makes it that you gain even more attack speed if you perform critical strikes while you're berserking. There's also this Berserker rare node here that gives you a 2 elites to add to your damage buckets. So that's 2 you're getting just from here. Then over in the Blood Rage board here, there is a legendary that makes it that killing a bleeding enemy has a chance to grant berserking for 5 seconds. They'll give you another means of adding berserking to your build, so you could spec out of, so by taking that, you could spec out of Frenzy and instead move into Flay. If you wanted to start building up, adding bleed to your build instead of just having your regular Frenzy attack skill. However, from this build calculator, even though it has a much nicer visual design than the other one does, something that is closer to the actual UI from the game, this one you have to actually progress all the way through if you want to see the boards. So instead of just having them all laid out for you, you'd have to go and actually build out a whole Paragon board, be able to look at what each of them have, which is far less convenient than the way the other one does it. But now we've discussed the tools and kind of the way to navigate your way into what you kind of want in terms of your Paragon boards and your skills. Now is the part that is very much speculation, because you see in each of the Paragon boards are these glyph sockets. And in the glyph socket, you can go and add any of these glyphs. There's glyphs that do lots of things. There's ambidextrous, which grants your magic nodes within range an additional 192% bonus. So what that would do is damage physical, +7 dexterity, this damage physical, this armor, this willpower, like all of these blue ones would be increased by 192%. That's how that would work if you were to take ambidextrous. And if you were to satisfy the strength requirement of it, then you would also gain additional damage while wielding a one-handed weapon. And if you're doing a dual wielding build with frenzy and double swing and all that, then this would actually be a pretty good option for a glyph for you to add into your build. And there's lots of glyphs that do lots of interesting things. Like there's ones like Ire, which for every 5 strength within range, you gain increased damage while berserking. Obviously a great one for what we're talking about here. While berserking, you take reduced damage from elites. Great stuff all around. Now here's the issue with this and why it is that I talked about the skills and the boards as matter of factly as I could, but I'm not doing so with these. We don't know how the glyphs work yet, because here we can just pick whatever glyph we want. Like, I have this glyph now. Cool. I can go and level up this glyph here to increase the amount that we're getting for our stuff in range. Cool. But, and this is important, when you start this Paragon board, because your starting board, and you make it to this point, and you pick your glyph, and you pick up all of your magic nodes here. Like, will it just let you pick this glyph? Like, will there actually be a list of glyphs you can select from? Or do we have to earn these? We have to find them somewhere. Because if you have to find them, then that completely changes the way that you should be considering leveling your character, which is very important. It's very important to know, how are you planning on leveling your character? Because you can plan to have an ambidextrous and a executioner, or an Ire, or a marshal, or any of these things. You can plan to have any of the glyphs you want for your build, but how realistic is that? We don't know. We know these glyphs exist. We data mine them. We know they're there. We don't know how we're gonna get them. We don't know if we can get them. We don't know if they're offered as quest rewards. We don't know if they're dropped by specific bosses. We don't know if they're just rewards for completing specific dungeons. We don't know how we get the glyphs. We don't know if you are someone who does not like to trade in games. We don't know if the best way to actually get a glyph is to trade with another player to get the glyph you want. We just don't know. We don't have that information yet. If we knew, then it would be a slam dunk to say, this is what you should do as far as the glyphs go. But anyone who gives you advice on the glyphs right now is a liar. They don't know what they're talking about because we don't know yet. In a few days, well, when this video comes out, we'll have already known by that point, most likely. This video will probably be out, the day of or the day after the early access starts. But whatever the case may be, as of the recording of this video, we don't yet know how glyphs work. And so I would definitely hold out on hearing the way this system works before making a hardline decision on whether to make including glyphs a part of how you build your character. So with that out of the way, this is what I'm about to talk to you about now is the correction I would like to make for the content creator Griparian. In his video, he made a mistake that is something that is a mistake I also made when I was doing my theory crafting for what I wanted to do for Diablo 4 with all the builds that I had planned. And the mistake he made involves the rare nodes. Now, the way the rare nodes work is that you have the bonus, so the tenacity here, you gain additional 4% life and additional 100 armor. But then there's a bonus, which gets you an additional 4% life if you meet the requirements, which are an additional 200 strength and 160 willpower. And that's for the starting board. Now, if we decide that we want to go from the starting board into the Carnage board, so we pick Carnage from here, So great. Like now we're going from starting board into Carnage. Complete that circuit there. And just for argument's sake, we'll remove our glyph and we'll get rid of all of the extra stuff around it. So now we're building around there. We're not going to take everything from here. Just going to kind of beeline straight for that next board. But now that we're here, we can rotate this around so that way we can take the most efficient route to the things we want on this board. So if you want to go straight for, this berserking cluster here, then you would want to start from here and just go straight into that. If you wanted to go straight for this berserking stuff here and for the legendary node, then you'd want to start here because it gets you a straight line there and then right into there. However the case may be, you can take whatever, whether the most efficient or not isn't what I'm trying to convey here. What I am trying to convey is that these yellow nodes, so in this case, because I have Berserk open, you can't see that's yellow, but that's yellow there. And we can see once we go past the starter board that the bonus requirements change. So instead of it being this flat number we're seeing here, now we're seeing that there's a little equation set there. So now if we wanted to get the additional 5% damage while berserking, the amount of willpower we would need would be 180 plus the product of 90 times the equip index. And the mistake that Kripparrian made, and is something that I completely understand how he made this mistake, because if you were to kind of logic out what this is saying, then the obvious way to think of it is that the equip index is the distance from the starter board. So if you were to go for this gate here and add a new board there, then this would be 1 away from here, that would be 2 away from here, and so it would be more beneficial to go straight for this gate over here instead of for the next gate on this side, so that you'd have 2 that were 2 away from your starting board instead of 1 that was 2 away, 1 that was 1 away, 1 that was 2 away, and 1 that was 3 away. And so logically that sounds like it should work that way, but the issue is that the equip index is not based on the distance. The equip index is let's think of this differently. Even though the way that the UI is showing this, so let me go to the other board. So even though the way that this UI is showing the board is as though these were placed in an order, they were not. It does not consider this an order. What it does consider it is a queue. So if we look at the top of each of the boards that we added, we can see that Blood Rage has this parenthetical here that says 1. So that is the equip index, because that is the first board that we added after the starting board. We went from the starting board into Blood Rage. And then from Blood Rage, the second one we added was Bonebreaker. Then from Blood Rage, we went into Carnage over here, which is 3. And from Carnage, we went into Flawless Technique, which is 4. And then we went into Decimator here, which is 5. And we can see that we haven't invested any points to get through here. We just picked on the gates and added them. But this number, it went up regardless, because it doesn't matter if the nodes you grab are in a way that would have linearly added each of these in a way that you wanted. It doesn't matter, because the way that it considers it is, okay, which of these gates did you pick on, and which of these boards did you pick when you clicked on this gate? Okay, so that is this index now. That's the only thing that matters to the way this system works. So the mistake Kripparrian made was that he made a logical leap that unfortunately was incorrect, and unfortunately that means that a lot of people will have been misled by what he said, which obviously, like, what he did was not malicious in any way. It was like a very easy to make mistake because of the tool that he had available to him. This build planner here was recommended to me by someone in a Discord server that I am a member of, and that's the only reason that I saw this one, which was how I learned the mistake that I made. Because until I saw it like this and saw the actual values that were being added to each of these boards, I didn't know that it wasn't a distance counter. So it's very important to note that. And the reason it's important to note that is because if we were to look at Blood Rage here, we'll add Blood Rage right there. So the distance from here to here, as far as Blood Rage goes, is that Carnage is 1, Blood Rage is 2, which means that Fire Conditioned here requires 160 plus 180 Dexterity, which is a very large amount of Dexterity, which is required to be able to gain that extra bonus there. And that's just going 2. If we go Hemorrhage, Poison Condition here, so this is 170 plus 270. Like, you can see that this is climbing very fast. We go one more. We already have Blood Rage, so why is Blood Rage allowed here? Did I not pick Blood Rage before? That's Blood Rage. Oh, that's weird. I'm not sure why it is that allows me to take Blood Rage here. Oh, I see. It lets me move it. That's what it's saying. Yes, it's showing that Blood Rage is in position 1 and Carnage is in position 2. So just take Decimator. So now we have Decimator in that position, which makes it that it is 4 away from the starting point. And the reason that I'm going into kind of excruciating detail here with this is that in Kripparrian's video, what he had said, like around the 26-minute mark, was that all good builds are going to have 5 to 6 glyphs in them. In order for you to have 5 to 6 glyphs in them, as you can see here, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5. This is 5 glyphs right here. And at 5 glyphs, we are no longer able to meet these requirements because we don't know if our gear satisfies these for us. Like, if our gear satisfies our stat requirements for these, then it may not matter. Like all of you may be able to grab all the rare nodes you want. That you have enough. That you have the points to be able to satisfy. Maybe be able to grab it all. I don't know. None of us know yet. But what we do know is that the requirement at this position here will be 180 plus 360 Dexterity to be able to get an additional 10% damage against vulnerable enemies. We know that. That is a certainty of how this works. And if you wanted to be able to get from here to here, satisfy all of these requirements, well, let's just see what that looks like. Okay, so let's look at what this looks like. At level 91, we have traversed from our starting tree. Actually, I forgot to do this one here. So I'm going to grab all the strength from starting tree as well. All the ones that feed to this glyph here. This one builds off of strength. Okay. But at 94, we have traversed from the starting grid over to our final board here, making sure that we enter all of our glyph panels and satisfy all the requirements inside of each of them. For this one, I grabbed one that required dexterity, and all these empty ones up here are because there aren't any dexterity nodes up there. So I just went into each of these and grabbed everything that satisfied the requirement of the glyph in each. And that was what I did going all the way through. And so based on that, we can see that our final stats here at level 94 for 543 strength, 190 intelligence, 306 willpower, 280 dexterity. Alright, so let's look at this rare node here. This rare node is at position 4, which means that the amount of dexterity that we need for this bonus here, for additional 10% vulnerable damage, is 540 dexterity. We are at 280. For this one, we need 530 willpower. We're at 306. For this one, we need 450 willpower. So I think you're getting the idea here. We are not satisfying the requirements of our bonuses here, even though traversing all the way out to here. And this is, remember, I said that Hyperion suggested 5 to 6. That a good build will have 5 to 6 glyphs. And this is only satisfying, this is only doing 5 glyphs. So satisfying 5 glyphs, we're at level 94. If you're going, mind you, like obviously, this isn't the most efficient path I could have taken. I could have rotated these in some way to free up some points. I could have not gone for Carnage here, like just ignored the legendary nodes, which I did in all the other ones. All the other ones, I completely ignored the legendary node just to be able to satisfy all of the, get to the glyph socket and satisfy them within their bounds. Just going through. And this was the result of that. Now, let me show you something. This here is my barbarian build. This is the build that I plan on playing in Diablo 4 when I play my barbarian eventually. And I'll be doing a whole video on what the actual build is. But as you can see, I went to level 90 here with 2. I added 2 boards to my initial starting board and ended up with not too far off on the stats from that other build, while gaining all of the bonuses I wanted and satisfying all of the rare node bonuses that I wanted to get. That was my goal, but that's what I did. You don't need to go 5 boards in, 6 boards in, 7 boards in. You can stop at 3 and still have an incredibly powerful build, like what I'm planning on doing with all of my characters. All of my builds only do the starting board and 2 more. We focus on, if we're able to get the glyph, awesome. If we're not able to get the glyph, then we'll still end up with a very powerful build. That's the idea. That's the goal. I want to make sure we get our legendaries with all of them. And that's my recommendation as far as this goes. If there's going to be a lot of information that's going out about this game. Some of it's going to be accurate, a lot of it's not. And so just make it clear, if you want to do well, don't consider builds where someone's saying that you need to get as many boards as possible. Because this is what getting as many boards as possible means, and this is not a good build. I put together just to show if you were to take all of the most efficient runs to the legendary node of as many boards as you could get to. So there are maybe a couple of rare nodes in here, maybe. Actually, I'm not even certain if there are any in here. But I grabbed as many legendary nodes as I could, which is not a good idea. Definitely don't do this. Don't even try to do something like this, because this will not be good for you, since each of the legendary nodes are specific to a build type. So but this is obviously a druid. If you aren't using werebear skills, then obviously this one won't do you any good at all. If you aren't using poison skills, this will not do you any good at all. If you're not using werewolf skills, this will not do you any good at all. There's already, these are 3 completely different builds that don't have anything to do with each other. Now you can combine poison and werewolf easily, and that's a good idea. They do have synergy, but You know, werewolf with werebear, poison with werebear, those aren't a good match, and they don't have good crossover. So if you see people saying, "Oh, grab as many as you can," don't listen. And just focus on your starter board, do what you can to get the stuff you like, move on to your first board, grab the stuff that works for the build you want, and just keep on like that. You know, don't try to just cater to whatever the hot build is without knowing if it's something that is a gameplay style that appeals to you, because a lot of times, you know, these major build guides are specifically catered to, this is the way that I, the person who made this build, enjoy playing the game, but whoever I, the person who made the build, enjoys playing the game, doesn't necessarily mean this how you like to play the game. So definitely always think of that when you are looking at any kind of build guide. Like, all of the builds that I'm going to be recommending aren't actually recommendations of builds. They are the builds that I plan on playing, because they are the things that I'm interested in doing with each of the classes. But they aren't me telling you, this is how you need to play Druid, this is how you need to play Barbarian, this is how you need to play Sorcerer, this is how you need to play Necromancer, this is how you need to play Rogue. It's just me saying, this is how I want to play those 5 classes, and I want to see how close to that, how close to completing that I can get. And with that out of the way, this has been my TED Talk, I guess, on creating a build for Diablo 4. Hopefully you found these tips useful. If you did, I appreciate doing all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay Victus, Virus and Numeris, and bye.